Sam Darnold took his place in a long line of illustrious USC quarterbacks with, of course, that scintillating performance at the Rose Bowl, a classic with 5 touchdown passes. We bring in Nick Dempsey from Conquest Chronicles to set us up for the USC quarterback situation coming into 2017. And it all starts with Sam Darnold and what not just a Rose Bowl he had, but what a complete season, not entering the fray until the Utah game and just playing lights out. 31 touchdowns, 9 interceptions.
Yeah, he did an amazing job. What's incredible to me is that he's just still so young and inexperienced. And you could tell that he still would make some questionable throws where you're thinking, why are you throwing into triple coverage? But what he was able to do, it's kind of exciting to see how much he can progress as he gets better with the system and gets a full year of reps as the starter. Again, he didn't have that. He was in competition with Max Brown at this time last year. So it'll be interesting to see how far he progresses. Now, where things could get complicated is if Darnold goes down for any reason, whether it be injury, discipline, whatever. If he goes down, now there's a lot of names that could come into play, but we don't really know. So Max Brown, as everybody knows, transferred to Pitt, so he's gone. Jalen Green, actually, last year after Brown announced his transfer, Jalen Green came in on backup duties. Jalen Green came in as a quarterback, was moved to wide receiver. So Jalen Green's still there, but he's probably not going to be second on the depth chart. I'd imagine he'd get beat out by Matt Fink, who came in 2016, pretty highly rated guy. He was, he's being groomed. So Fink's probably going to win the backup job, and we don't know a whole lot about Fink. He didn't see any action his first year. So after that, you're probably actually looking at Jalen Green as the number 3 guy on the depth chart, because highly touted top 5 recruit this year, quarterback Jack Sears, who he enrolled early in January, so he's on campus already. He's an incoming freshman in the 2017 class. Recruiting class, but they might try to preserve him for a red shirt. So if we're down to number 3 for USC, you would think, because you got Darnold, who's going to be a redshirt sophomore, so he could in theory go to the NFL after this season, and then you've got Fink, who's going to be in his second year this season. And so you'll probably want to protect Jack Sears and get him redshirted if you can, give him some extra eligibility. But so that would probably put Jalen Green in at number 3. And let's be honest, if you're down to your number 3 quarterback, hopefully it's just spot duty. I guess it would depend. If both Darnold and Fink go out for long periods of time, then yeah, Sears might have to burn that potential red shirt. So they got 4 pretty competent guys: Darnold, Fink, Green, and Sears. So that's probably going to be your top 4. They've also got a couple of walk-ons, Thomas Fitz and Thomas Holden. They're both younger. They haven't really made an impact. They were both preferred walk-ons. They're basically scout teams players. But here's the thing. That's where Darnold came from. So you don't want to rule these guys out, but you're looking at a 6-man depth chart, and you've got some pretty elite guys in front of you. And again, none of this really will come into play unless Darnold is out for any extended period of time for any reason. So it's all systems go with Darnold. The one thing that might cause concern is if Fink is not maybe as mobile as Darnold, and they have an offense built around Darnold's mobility. If that's the case, they might have to scale it back a little bit and go more towards an offense they used when Max Brown was the starter at the beginning of the season, which was not terribly productive, as we all remember. So that could be an issue. But again, none of this is going to come into play unless Darnold is out. Until then, Darnold's the man. He's going to lead the team. And if he can improve upon last year, the expectations are sky high with Darnold in the backfield.
Of course, USC's one play away from having to go to all this inexperience, but it's not unlike the situation that almost every college team faces. Who has an experienced backup? If the guy has experience, he's obviously been the starter. So that's rarely the situation where you have an experienced backup. That only plays out in the NFL. So Thomas Fitz, we talked about him, 2015 class. He was a top 5 pro style quarterback, 16th rated player in California. Matt Fink, who you're projecting as the possible backup?
Yeah, I think so right now. It's tough to say, though. Maybe Fitz gets in there, but I think Fink's probably going to come in as number 2. But they're gonna battle it out, and they're gonna see what they have. Obviously, we know Coach Helton loves competition. It's going to be interesting to see how much time he spends on figuring out number 2. But right now, I would imagine Fink's probably going to win out, but you can't rule out scout team quarterbacks on USC apparently. So it's not a lock by any means.
And Fink, originally listed as a dual threat quarterback when he came out in 2016, the 13th rated player at that position, according to 247, 55th rated player in California. And then the last recruiting class that just came in a couple of weeks ago, Jack Sears, as you ran down his qualifications, number 4 pro style quarterback, according to 247, and one of the top 100 players in the country, regardless of position. So they have plenty of guys that have shown to have the talent to land at USC based on their high school track record, but the lack of experience there. The thing about Darnold, getting back to Darnold real quick, is that it's not only astonishing how well he played throughout the season, getting thrown into the fray 4 or 5 games into it, but that he really didn't play a bad game. So I watched most of these games, and I just look back at the numbers just to kind of refresh my memory. He had two interception games, and they didn't really cost USC. They won by a couple scores in Seattle against Washington, and they blew out UCLA. So they were not consequential interceptions. 31 touchdowns, 9 picks, and then of course he just completely went off in the Rose Bowl in one of the higher pressure-packed games that you can imagine, being down by a couple scores in the fourth quarter and coming back to pull out the win. So Sam Darnold, a lot to live up to here in 2017.
What's, the crazy thing is, though, when he came in the middle of the season, they were 1-2 when he came in. They dropped to 1-3, and despite not having any sort of snaps as a starter, he was sprinkled in the first 3 games here and there. What's amazing is he just didn't seem rattled or like he had just, stepped up onto a big stage and, he's this young kid. He made every pass like he had completed that exact pass 1,000 times before. I don't know if it's just a confidence thing or if he's got ice in his veins, but if you would not have known that he was a redshirt freshman, a lot of those throws that you would have thought, well, this guy's like a 5th-year senior. Like this, he plays like he has been there before. And the thing is, last year he hadn't. So, it's going to be interesting to see how he handles the expectations, because they're going to be sky high as soon as all these, preseason Heisman picks come out. His name's going to be up there for sure. Everybody's going to have him at the top of their list. Probably going to have USC as a team very high in the preseason rankings or projected rankings. Phil Steele's going to love him. So everybody's going to be talking about these guys. So by the time we get to the end of August, early September, when we're actually back to playing football for 5-6 months, or 4 to 5 months, you're going to be hearing about how great this kid is, how he's going to, be a world beater. That's a lot of pressure. So let's hope he can live up to it. Certainly did a fantastic job with the pressure last year. But the hype's going to be real for USC coming in. Absolutely. And I apologize to the USC haters who don't want to hear about it, but it's coming. Sorry.
Darnold, definitely not a runner, but the other thing he belied in his performance on the field is that he's not the guy that's going to be a statue in the pocket, the big strong-armed guy that fills out the frame, 6'3", 200 plus, that can throw the ball 90 yards, but he can't move because he's got escapability. Not a runner, but escapability, and made throws on the run as well. Nick Dempsey from Conquest Chronicles helping us out on USC positional units. So we start at quarterback. Nick and I get together every Wednesday night, and we're going to get you set for spring football by looking at each position. Thanks for the time as always, Nick.
Of course, Mark, anytime.